This is going to be an adventure on my side tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. Oh boy. Hey everybody, welcome to Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you please give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for the carvers and our special guest. Let's meet the carvers. Uh-oh. First, he's an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He was a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. It's Paul Dever.
Hey, happy Thursday, everybody.
How you doing, Paul? Good to see you. Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network. It's Matt Harper.
Hey, Matt.
Aloha. Hi, guys.
Hey, Maddie.
How you doing? Our returning guest tonight is a 3-timer now. We are so proud of that. That's right. He's a Makeup EFX, illustration, sculpture, and digital effects artist from New Zealand. He is our good friend. It's Gino Acevedo.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh my
So
God.
glad to have you
Honor.
back. Thank you so much. And it's the future there, as I always mention, right?
It is a future, and as I say, I've got the lotto numbers if you want them.
My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. I'm on the road again. The life I love is making artwork with my friends. Okay, are you good with that?
Look at
Is
that.
I like it.
Is that good? Is that good?
I like it.
All right.
I like it.
Let's check out our sculpts from last week.
Wow.
The carving subject was Furious Oni Mask. Paul, this is outstanding.
I know, but I feel like I mailed it in because there was nothing but Furious Oni masks for reference. They don't have a happy Oni mask. Did you know that? The Japanese.
It'd be great to get like a drunk Oni mask or a rotund one or something, but yeah.
Oh, that would have been sweet. But yeah, no.
a little more of a challenge. This is awesome. I mean,
This
this
is fantastic. Really
Thank
cool.
you.
immediately.
Thank you very much.
Immediately, yeah. So
Yeah,
good.
Oni masks are cool, man. They really are cool, and there's so many different variations of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was fun. It was, but we talked about it before we started, Matt. The symmetry, trying to, the squash is kind of symmetrical, and then once you get in, you start getting deeper into certain spots just to kind of round it out. So you find out real quick that it's not as symmetrical as you thought. So, but yeah, it's an Oni mask.
That was a
one
challenge.
on the list. You know, from the day I was born, I always said I wanted to carve an Oni mask out of squash, and damn it, I did it.
There you
Bucket
go.
list, baby. There you go.
Bucket list, yes.
Yeah, and if you check the Instagram reel of it, you put on all the teeth and everything. It was very, very. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
Yeah, the Oni mask had that cool depth and the exaggeration of the teeth around the mouth and stuff. So I wanted to, rather than try to fight it to get the tips of the teeth, I just dug the gums in as deep as possible and kind of glued them in after so I could get some shadow in there.
Good idea.
Such a cool. I love the way the teeth just don't sit at a natural angle and it just looks awesome.
Great idea.
Great stuff.
I
great
love it.
stuff.
All about
Thank
it.
you.
Oh, wow.
That killed it too.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Maddie.
Yeah, I did the same kind of thing, Paul. I fought with symmetry the whole time. I was like, because they are very symmetrical, and I just went, because like you said, there's so many different variations. I needed a reference, but I saw this one that had this really cool like wrinkled nose that I thought was fun. But yeah, my favorite part was just doing those teeth because they're so like gaudy and crazy. He could never close his mouth. So anyway, lots
Yeah,
of
it's
fun.
great. It was a fun one. I love the scrolling in there too. Gives a character. I love it.
Yeah, just like the Japanese master, they always thought in the future somebody's going to carve this out of butternut. So
Yeah, right.
let me make this hard for them.
Yeah,
Had me when he was making it.
they're so ornate. I mean, there's so much detail in it. It's really, really good. So I work in pixels and vectors, and it's so ornate that this seems kind of like I want not as elaborate as my other artists, but I kind of made it look like a Judas Priest cover.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
Yeah. Screaming for
That's great.
vengeance.
Scream you for vengeance. That's exactly it.
I'd wear that
So-
T-shirt.
I was gonna
Yes.
say, I know. Sign me up.
I know. See, See, Gino, that's one thing Mickey's gotten really good at. He either makes like perfect shirt art or like something that would be an album. And even last week he did one that looks like an old ad, and he's just out of the park every time. This is so great, Mickey.
Thank you.
One and the same though. When you see a great album cover, if you see the T-shirt, you want to buy it because you obviously love the album. So
yes.
Yeah, and I was going to put some more in here, but I'm like, it'll just take away from everything. So it's like these things are so ornate. So, yeah, I'm just glad I got it out in time.
I really love what you've done with the way you've done the gradation of the colors, and it's really cool.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Well, Gino, we have a fourth member of Carvers and Creators responsible for our carving subject tonight. It is the hollow wheel, the center spinner, and as always, Paul will tell you more about it right now.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that thing.
Yeah, the old center spinner. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back, Gino. Great to have you. All right, so the wheel, your old friend here. Okay, so for everybody watching that hasn't seen it, we will spin this bad boy twice. First time will be the character that we're going to carve, and the second time is going to be the emotion or attribute that we will apply. So for our first spin, it will either be a demon, a gnome, a senior citizen, guest choice. So have one ready, Gino. Not of this world, skeletal, orc, fantasy animal, classic monster, and undead. I threw orc on there for you, Gino.
Oh, thanks.
Second spin will be infected, dismal, tortured, exhausted, guest choice once again, euphoric, robust, agony, furious, jovial, and I believe I said infected. But might not. I have the attention span of a goldfish. All right, spin one.
I'm hoping for the exhausted senior citizen.
I know how.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so let's see if we can make that happen because this wheel has a tendency to do things here. So what's senior citizen? All right. So usually wherever I put it is where it lands for whatever reason. So here we go. Oh, I missed it by that much.
Oh,
guest choice though.
You know what?
Well,
I wonder where he's leaning. Which way? Here we go. Watch it be guest choice again. Agony. Whatever we're going to carve is going to be an agony.
Nice. Okay.
Cool.
So I get to choose something.
You can choose anything from the wheel or anything on the planet Earth or beyond.
Okay. Let's do
uh-oh.
I'm thinking. Let's do a gnome in agony.
A gnome in agony. Long fly ball to left field by Acevedo. Oh boy, I didn't see gnome coming.
A gnome.
I was
that came out of nowhere.
I was afraid to say senior citizen.
Well, one thing about Paul and I, we love doing wrinkles because I mean they're just so much fun. Like the fat folds and everything. So anytime you get to do something that's old, it's just like a little treat. But I think we can certainly make a gnome look old too.
Yeah, that's the kiss of death right there. Thinking it's easy.
No, God.
It'll be fun. Agony.
No,
There's a gnome in agony.
Yeah. So I've committed it to the chat and I've committed it to the board, so it shall be done.
Now we're hosed. Now we got to do a gnome. Okay.
I think the reason why I thought about gnome was because recently we watched the Frighteners. Remember the Frighteners with Michael J. Fox?
Yeah, I forgot all about that movie.
Yeah. That was shot out here, but there's a scene where Michael drives his car into this fence and he knocks down this guy's prized possession, which is one of those plaster gnomes.
Oh wow! Okay, that's what is rolling through my head. When my kids were little, they watched a show called Gnomeo and Juliet. It was just this hacky, silly thing. But those kind of garden gnomes what pop in my head immediately with the hats. And I don't know, but this kind of has that shape. I don't know. Maybe there's something in there.
Maybe, yeah.
Who knows?
There's gonna definitely have to be, Matt. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to find it. Dig deep, sir. Find your inner gnome. And beat the piss out of him so he's in agony, so you can therefore transfer that into said sculpt.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all it takes. Just those little, those little nuanced things. And next thing you
that's the little things.
It's a little things.
Do all gnomes have beards or just some gnomes?
Well, the female gnomes don't. Come on, Paul.
Are they called gnomes? The female gnomes? Are they called? I don't even know.
Nomads? I don't know, like Smurfette?
Nomads. And like Mickey's a nomad. He's traveling around.
The nomad, that's right.
That's true.
Wherever
That's
he may
true.
roam.
I'm more a gypsy, but I'll take a nomad. That's good.
I see you. I see you.
Well, if you're carving or creating with us tonight, we're going to give you 5 minutes to get your tools together, get your carving oil in order. And Gino, we're going to start with you. What is your carving oil for tonight?
Or this morning.
And this
today.
it's this afternoon. So what is it? It's 5 past 1 o'clock. So it's lunchtime. So I'm having my usual iced tea.
There we go.
Iced tea and pump water.
Nice.
Good.
Nice.
Staying hydrated. That's the key.
Yeah.
Now, what do you got?
So you guys know that I'm not a huge IPA fan. So I went and got a double IPA.
Oh boy.
Of course.
I like the name too. Says it all.
Mind haze. So I
Yes.
found out that if it's a hazy IPA, it's not as bad. Apparently, I don't know in my brain how that works, but I'm just trying to stay in the loop here on cool beers. But if I have a backup also from Firestone just in case if this one doesn't work.
Yes. Hazy IPAs are more malty, so you don't like the hoppy beers, so that's probably why.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
from a
you,
beer,
Mickey.
from one beer nerd to a person who's not a beer nerd. Here's another beer nerd.
Oh hey,
Hello, Paul.
nice. Oh, how's it
Hey,
going?
kids.
Didn't realize I was on camera there. This is I've had similar before. It's from Fab and Oslo Brewing from Boston, Massachusetts. Sternback the Seas. It's got really cool can artwork.
Yeah, it is. Oh
Is
wow,
that coming?
Viking.
Oh, that's
The Viking destroying the village. Like how bad could it be? You know what I mean? It's a
super
double
cool.
as well. It's 8%. So yeah.
It looks like those lino art. You know, like the etched like a wood print or something. You know how they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I could spend all day looking at it and forget to drink it. So I will not look at it another second.
What about you, Mick?
Oh boy. So since I'm on the road, I have Arrowhead tap water or Arrowhead water in a coffee cup. So
You are.
I'm a mess.
Jesus. That's not on the road. That's on the skids.
Well, if you knew where I was, then you know, actually, water is actually a luxury. So, I'm not going to disparage Gino and Matt's and my former hometown, Phoenix, Arizona. But I'll just say that we're moving tomorrow. Let's just say that.
Okay, different place. Got it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna come out with you were building wells in like Ethiopia or something.
Well,
Pretty close right now. Pretty close.
people tend to drink a lot of water in Phoenix anyway, right, Gino? I mean, like as you know, growing up there, it gets hot. Now, right now, it's like 70, so no excuse. But anyway, it's a big popular drink there.
Yes.
In the summertime, when you perspire, it just turns into a cloud above your head.
Yes. I used to
Do
live
not
on
miss
Thirst
that.
Busters from Circle K, so I know all about being dehydrated in Arizona. But cheers
Yeah.
to our creations tonight.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Gino, I wanted to start out with
Awesome.
you gave me so many photos. It's going to be, this is your life. So I'm going to go through some pictures. Please just tell me what we're seeing here.
I love this.
Well, first, let's talk about that hair. Huh?
I know. It's fabulous.
I still find myself, doing that, every now and then, and I forget it's not there anymore.
So feathery.
But this is in the 80s, of course, and this is when I was still working at the Halloween company, Imagineering in Phoenix, Arizona, and owned by Larry Liff. And this was one of the masks that I sculpted. We came up with these masks called moving mouth masks, and basically the jaw was a separate piece. And so when you put the mask on, obviously the eyes weren't in there because the eyes were cut out so you could see. But the jaw was a separate piece that had like these elastic straps and stuff on.
Nice.
But I made one for myself just to make a full face kind of demon. And these were some werewolf hands that I sculpted. And but it's like this is when I was learning a lot about the shrinkage of latex. And my friend David Ayers just popped up. Hello, David, back in Arizona. But when I was learning about the shrinkage of latex, I put these because I sculpted them over my cast of my hands, and after I got the latex ones out, after it shrank, It's like that. After I wore them for about 10 minutes, I could barely feel my fingers. They look cool. They look cool.
This almost kind of has that Oni Mask look to it too, because it's got the really exaggerated teeth and the symmetry. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I've still got that. The guy here, he's still hanging up on my wall over here.
Oh wow!
And,
really?
That's when the latex was good quality latex. The old R&D 407.
Yeah. You're reminiscing about the old part number.
Yes, and I can still smell those fumes, and it's probably why I only have half a lung left.
What is the shrinkage percentage on latex? As somebody that wants to start making some stuff, and I don't want to lose my hands in the process.
It's usually between 6 to 8%.
That's a pretty good amount, huh?
Yeah,
So,
it is a pretty good amount.
So what do you do if so you said you made casts of your hands? What would you do? Put gloves on your hand before you make a cast?
No, I mean, what I should have done was just made the sculpture, a thicker, bigger. The clay on there made it quite a bit thicker.
Yeah.
Just to allow for some of that shrinkage and stuff. Yeah, but the other thing you can do too is, like, if you have a hand cast, I've seen a lot of guys that'll get like a wax or something, like a thick kind of wax that comes in sheets, and you can wrap the form around it just to build up a thickness, just so you're guaranteed to have that thickness in there, and then sculpt the rest of it around it. Okay. And this was again, as I mentioned, the Halloween company, good old Imagineering. And again, Larry started the company back in 1964, I believe, which is the year that I was born. So a long time ago. And Larry invented this stuff called, of course, the vampire blood, which we all used to buy in Kmart and Woolco and all that kind of stuff. But also he came up with the plastic vampire teeth. And those were the teeth that, whenever you put them in your mouth, it would cut the crap out of your gums. Yeah. You had to get some scissors and cut them away a little bit. But so Larry came up with this product, and he started the whole company like that, and went on to add more and more products to the product line. Then he added a lot more makeups and stuff, and then he met up with another gentleman who's the one who's responsible for getting me into the business. He's like my big brother. His name is Barry Coper. But Barry had met Larry at Universal Studios, and Barry was a makeup artist in Los Angeles, and they got together. And Barry always had this idea of doing some sort of like a mask that you could wear, but almost like a prosthetic, so it could have two separate pieces, like a separate jaw and a face piece. And so they got to talking, and they came up with a thing called the face. I still have one here. I got one somewhere, but it was a makeup kit called the face, and they had all these different styles, and they were vacuform pieces, and they had this material called Valerifoam. Now, this Valerifoam was probably about an 1/8 of an inch thick, and it was vacuformable. And so Barry had sculpted I think like 12 different styles, and then they made molds of all the pieces, and they had them vacuformed. And so with this foam, you can actually apply makeup on top of it. And so that's how they packaged this kit, which really took the company way up there. It became very, very popular.
Oh,
and
cool.
So just a little bit of history, and it's funny because with that product, a lot of my old friends now, it's kind of how we got started, and buying that kind of stuff and playing around with it and experimenting.
Gino, I think every kid that's ever done anything with Halloween or even just goofing around playing vampires bought that kit. I mean, it's like pretty universal. And now, did you do some of the art on it, or was the did you do any of the? I mean, I know it was while you were there, but is that just
No, this artwork was done by a friend of Larry's, and his name was Gordon Viges, who did this really cool artwork, and actually on this one, the back of this one was actually done by Jim Sauter. Jim Sauter was another artist who was there in the art department, but Gordon was one of the ones who did some of the original artwork. But it was always the kind of stuff, as a kid, you see that kind of stuff. It's like, wow, that's so cool. I got to get that,
Oh yeah, instantaneously. I'm like, that's like a childhood shot right there.
Yeah, the artwork always sold it, and it looked like a Schoolhouse Rock. So it was very, very relatable to kids.
Yeah,
vibrant colors.
Totally.
I love this.
This goes way back. This was this was my first job in Hollywood, and Barry got me the job over at NBC, working with Bob Scribner, who was in charge of the makeup at NBC. And it was just Barry was trying to get me to come out to Hollywood, and it was like, oh, I'm not ready yet. You know, I'm too nervous. I don't know if I'll get any work out there. And so we hemmed and hawed for a long time while I was still at the Halloween company. And finally, the job came up, and one night Barry said, I've got a gig for you. It's just temporary. It's only going to be for about 2.5 weeks. You know, talk to Larry, see if you can take a leave of absence and come out and do this makeup. It's a prosthetic thing, because I had been experimenting with prosthetics and stuff. And my good friend David Ayers back in Phoenix taught me a lot about foam rubber and all that, as well as another friend, Matt Marich. And so I was pretty good with the foam rubber stuff, and and have been practicing quite a bit of sculpting. And anyways, so the gig was a Dick Clark show. Do you guys remember Dick Clark?
Oh yeah,
that Friday night American Bandstand and all that stuff.
Sure,
But anyways, this was just one of those special shows that they had on for a Friday night called what's it called? It was called anyways, I'll get back to it. And Friday Night Surprise, that's what it was. And they had one little skit in there, which was taken off of an old skit back in the 1960s, and an old show called Masquerade. And in Masquerade, what they would do is that they would have celebrities come out made up as other celebrities. And because of audience participation, through questions, they had to guess who the actual actors were. And so they kind of redid that. And in this case, of course, we have the amazing Alan Hale and Bob Denver from Skipper and Gilligan's Island, which was a show that was just dear to my heart. And I knew what every episode was by the first 3 seconds of the start of every show.
Same. Yep.
And so it's the first time really that I was working with real actors and stuff. And so I was at NBC in their makeup lab there, and I had to take their face casts. And the first one that came in was Alan Hale, and Alan was just an absolute sweetheart. And he came in, and it was like, my head, I'm going, be cool, Gino, be cool. It's Skipper. I know. It's
That's
like,
a Skipper, for God's sake. Yeah.
And so we're going to be doing this process of a live cast, and then we're going to and he said, okay, yeah, whatever you want to do. And so I took his live cast, and then about 45 minutes later, Bob Denver came in. And what was amazing is so funny, because Bob and Alan, they hadn't seen each other in quite a few years. And so the first thing that Alan says to Bob is like, little buddy, how are you? And it was just like, to explode. It's like, this is too much. And they were both just great guys, and just, and we're really excited about the process. Well, Alan Hale Bob was like, I don't know about being turned into Mae West. And so that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
And so we're applying the prosthetic onto Bob here, and he ended up looking pretty scary looking.
Oh yeah. But the goal was also to kind of fool the. But the goal was to fool the audience too, right? So you wanted to make sure that they didn't resemble.
Exactly, yeah. With Alan Hale, it was he kind of looked like Billy C. Fields anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But with him, I just put a nose and chin and cheek pieces on there. And the gentleman in the picture before, his name is Ken Schoenfeld, who's a makeup artist in LA, who has helped me with the makeup there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And in the show, it's actually, they still have it on YouTube if you go on a thing called Bob Denver and Alan Hale on Friday Night Surprise. And the audience guesses who they are right away, and then they do like the old the show where they peel off the masks. They peel off the mask and reveal themselves. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And
how sorry, Nick, how old were you here, just for reference, do you know?
I think I must have been about 19, I think.
Wow.
So 19 or 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I wanted to be at 19.
Yeah.
No.
What a great gig at 19. Goodness. That's awesome. And I was going to say that he looks a little bit like Waylon Flowers and Madam. Like a little bit. That is the last reference I will make today to show my age.
I don't think you got more in you, Mick. I don't know.
I'm positive I do.
And the thing that really I kick myself all the time, because I collect live casts, of obviously people that I've worked with, but also I collect them of just people, that I haven't worked with. And as makeup artists, we trade them kind of like baseball cards. And
cool.
I never kept a copy of Bob and Alan's live casts. And
I was going to ask.
I've been hunting them down for, over 30 years now. And I know they've got to be there at NBC somewhere. So if anybody's out there, you can find a Alan Hale and Bob Denver live cast. We need to talk.
Wow.
I'm picturing Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he walks the Ark of the Covenant back into those. That's probably what it looks like in the archives at NBC. They're like, it's on a shelf, like tucked 1,000 feet back there. Yeah.
I love this movie.
Jumping ahead of quite a few years. No, not quite a few, but a few years later, when I finally made the move to Hollywood, and this is working with a couple of great guys at Amalgamated Dynamics. It's Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis, and they got this show called Death Becomes Her, which was a fantastic and really funny movie, and it had Goldie Hawn, Meryl Streep, and Bruce Willis in it. And it's a scene. Sorry to spoil it for people, but anyway, she has an accident and her head gets twisted around backwards. And so this was a time when CG was starting to come around a little bit, and so we were working with ILM on this, and we needed to make some animatronic puppets of Goldie and Meryl. So here I am doing some touch-up painting on the Meryl Streep puppet. But the interesting thing about this is that with the materials, and this was a real big breakthrough for us and for the industry, really, of using this silicone material. And because before we would normally use like a foam rubber material, a foam latex, and it's a great material to work with, and it's still used today. But the only downfall about it is that it's very opaque. It's an opaque material. It's not translucent like our skin is. And so the advantage of the silicone is that it is translucent. And this particular kind, it was called a 1068, I believe was the number of it. But the problem with the silicone, and kind of what it was designed to be, is that nothing really sticks to it. So trying to get paint to stick to it was a real pain. But I developed this system of painting with acrylics and using the airbrush and using acrylic paints thinned down with water with isopropyl alcohol. And I would airbrush all my colors on there, do really fine mottling and all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, the acrylic paints wouldn't stick to the silicone itself, and so I had to figure out a way to get it to bond. So I used a silicone adhesive, and I thinned it down with this really nasty stuff called methylene chloride, and I thinned it down to the adhesive was like it came in a caulking tube, so you know how thick that stuff is.
Oh boy!
So I thinned it down with methylene chloride. I thinned it down to the consistency of about milk, I guess, and I would spray that through a big spray gun. And basically what would happen is that the methylene chloride was so aggressive, but it would carry the adhesive, which was, and it would kind of bite through my layer of paint and bite through and adhere itself to the original silicone skin underneath. Excuse me. And so it was kind of like sandwiching my color into the skin. And so that was a huge breakthrough. And now everybody's, using the silicone material, and now they've got newer and even kind of better ways of painting the silicone. But I still like using the old technique of the acrylics, just because I can get much finer details and things with it. And I found some other sorts of solvents to use instead of the old nasty methylene chloride.
Yeah. Speaking of all those things, I mean, I bet when those things came out, I mean, was there regulation the way it is now related to because of those? You had to have it in certain, ventilated rooms and stuff like that, or did you kind of just wing it?
Regulations.
Who needs regulations?
Yeah. It was like, this was methylene chloride. It's fine. No, there were some regulations, and especially out here in New Zealand, they're very, very tight on it, which is great. But back in Los Angeles, I mean, they were some restrictions, and we did have a really good a spray booth, which would suck out all the nasty chemicals and put them out into LA somewhere. And at
least they weren't around you,
Yeah. And here I am doing some touch-ups on the Meryl Streep puppet. And we had an amazing mechanical crew on this. We had Dave Nelson, who did some really amazing animatronics, and Mickey Hewson and Guy Himber. But she was pretty creepy. And what was cool about it is that obviously with the animatronic puppet, there was, you know, sometimes it would get a little bit jerky and things. And so there were things that we couldn't do to perfectly match to Meryl's performance, you know, a real human being. So Meryl would come in and sit with us, and she would go, okay, well, if you're going to get it to walk like that, maybe I can put a little bit of that jerkiness into the hand and stuff, which is what she did a little bit, you know, just to tie the two together. And so it was a great marriage of both physical and digital, you know, at the time. And it was so cool. I mean, we had Dean Cundy, who was lighting the show, and who's just you know, he knew how to light puppets and things. You know, Dean had worked on the Thing, the original Thing and stuff.
Oh yeah. Wow.
But yeah, so here I am just doing some touch ups and stuff, and you know, I've got Roy Helen there on the left hand side. He was Meryl's makeup artist, and so he's like, no, too much.
Oh really? Over the shoulder, I see. Okay.
Over the shoulder, literally over the shoulder.
So everyone always wants to know when it comes to working with like super A-listers like her or other ones you've worked with. So many you've worked with, Sigourney, and you could start rattling off so many names. What? And again, this is a cliche question, but like, was she like what she seems? Or I mean, again, I wouldn't even know how to answer my own question. But what was she like? Was she down to earth? Are they pretentious? You know, in the general sense.
She was just like you see her. She was amazing. She was just a gorgeous woman. And, you know, she would come in because she was really interested into what we were doing. And so she would come and check it out. And I remember one time, you know, telling her as she was looking at the face. And one of the things that I did on the sculpture was I love detailing. My form sucks, so I always detail stuff. But I detailed it, you know, where I put pore for pore, basically, because we had a life cast of her. And so I was, you know, matching the pores just to get everything just right. And I remember when she came over and looked at the puppet, and I was looking at her, and I said, you know, I know every pore on your face, you know. And she grabbed my face with both hands. She goes, and you're not going to tell anybody, are you? It's like, the wrong thing to say to a woman. Yeah. So,
but you meant it in an artistic, wonderful way, of course.
Yeah. Love and respect.
She was fantastic. I mean, the whole crew was great, you know, and Bruce was amazing. And of course, Goldie was fantastic as well.
Wow.
And Robert Zemeckis was the director, who was incredible. You know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then this is
that's a great picture.
Master. For people who don't know who this gentleman is, this is the great makeup master, the godfather of the makeup industry. His name is Dick Smith. And unfortunately, he's passed away now. But Dick started out just coming up with a lot of the techniques and things that we still use today. And the amazing thing about Dick is that he came up with techniques and things, but, you know, when he finds something, you don't hoard it, you know, as a little secret. It's like, my precious, you know, he never did that. He always shared it with everybody, which really helped to get the industry to where it is today. And anyways, it was Pete Jackson and Richard Taylor shot at him a trip to come out to New Zealand to come and look and see what we were doing. At the time, we were working on the Lord of the Rings. And so Dick was very excited. He came and stayed with us for about 3 weeks, I think. Oh, wow. And so he came around the workshop. This is in the makeup room at the workshop. And I'm just a little bit excited there, as you can see. And one of the things I had asked Dick is that a lot of people don't realize, but on his left hand, he's missing his ring finger. He told me the story that he was on a job once, and there was a pickup truck or something that was taking people to location, and he went to go hop on the back of the truck, and he put his makeup kit in the back of the truck, and he went to go put his hand on the tailgate or something, and the driver didn't realize that he was still getting on the truck. Oh. And his wedding ring got caught on something, and the truck left with the wedding ring and finger. Yikes. So he had to have it amputated off. And what he did is that it took it off from where the ring is, but he had told the surgeons and stuff, or the doctors, that he wanted to go ahead and have them remove this knuckle here. And so basically, when it closed up, it looks totally normal. It just looks like a four-fingered guy. Wow. And wow. So he calls it his Mickey Mouse hand. Yeah. And he said, I asked him once, I said, because I love collecting the live casts, and I love casting, people's hands and everything like that. So I asked Dick, I said, Dick, would you mind if I cast your hands, just because they're the master's hands? And he said, and Dick used to talk like this, and he said, oh yeah, of course you can. I said, well, why don't you just cast my whole head? And I said, really? I said, wow. Okay. So I called Richard Taylor. I said, Rich, Dick said that we can cast his whole head and everything in his hands. So I got a few people together, and of course the first part of doing a live cast is that you have to put a ball cap on to protect the hair. Mm-hmm. And so putting the ball cap on it, and this is like the worst ball cap I've ever put on in my life, putting it on the master. And the funny thing is like, he's looking into a makeup mirror, and he's all I could hear him going so, and he would go, so are you going to do it that way? And it's like, oh God. I was gluing one side down. As I glued one side down, the other side would pop up. It was like,
my gosh.
And you can probably see a bit of a shimmer on my forehead there, because I was, sweating bullets.
You look very relaxed. Very relaxed.
We got a great live cast done with Francis Hawker and Ben Hawker. Did the live cast on him. It's beautiful. Actually, I've got him on the back wall back here.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
Mickey, go back one really quick, because I'm so fascinated with what I want. Yeah. So those life casts, I assume you have a lot of those behind you as well, or some of them maybe. And I see I can see
Eddie Murphy.
I can see Eddie Murphy. I can see, it looks like Alfred Hitchcock. Oh my God, look at that.
Did I see Winston Churchill on that wall, or am I seeing things?
Let's see. Not Winston. I don't have a Winston. I've got
who's next to
Val Kilmer, right? Maybe. Oh my! It's just fascinating.
And down below Val Kilmer is Tor Johnson. I believe that's Tor.
Okay.
And there's Alfred Hitchcock.
And I see Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Up to the very left there.
Yeah. And next to Tom Cruise, that's a very young Vincent Price.
Wow.
Wow.
And next to Val is Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So fascinating.
Oh, I love them. It's great. And, because we always play, people come to the house and stuff. We play the guessing games, like see if you can guess, And it's interesting because some people can pick them out right away. And other people's like, they just can't see it without the color or the hair or anything.
Yeah. It's way different. You have to have some very identifiable features to read. Alfred Hitchcock is the one that you can spot that from space.
Right.
That one's a great one. I think I see Tom Hanks in there, maybe above Dick's head. I don't know. Maybe that's not him. Anyway, I see myself over your left shoulder there, pretty much. Here, that's me.
Well, it was the ears that gave it away, right?
Yeah, I went like this and I held them. So cool. I just love that's fascinating to me. And have you wait one more question? Sorry, Mike. So have you ever just because you're just this kind of artist, have you ever just picked one up and said, I want to make a prosthetic on one of those faces, or is it something you just kind of leave as your, collection of these things? Have you ever used that as a,
No, not really. Not really I use it more for reference, and just with the fascination of faces, because you look across and we're all so different. Yeah, I've just always been fascinated with that. And what I love about it is just I love to keep them white like that, where it's almost like the plaster material. Yeah. I love the way that the light, reflects off of it, and you can't get all the shadows and things.
Agreed. Oh, anyway, sorry, Mickey, I will stop gushing for a minute.
No, it's okay. Johnny actually had a question here.
Big cash money, Johnny. Wow, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the super chat. Very nice. Can you see that, Gino? Or
yeah, it says, does Gino have a preference of what's on his palette? Is there a benchmark? Yeah, as far as the paints and stuff, it's like when I'm doing airbrushing stuff, I use Createx, which is a great one. Badger paints are a great one as well. And there's quite a few other. Tim Gore has his own paint line out there, which is a great one as well.
Bloodline.
It's great stuff. And and my favorite colors to use when I'm doing skin tones and stuff are there's 4 basic colors. There's like a deep red. There's like a creamy yellow, which is the creamy yellow, as I always base that on, like your knuckle. When you make a knuckle, that kind of creamy yellow there.
Oh yeah.
And a burnt umber brown, and kind of like a green, like a veiny green kind of color. But it's but the red I think is got to be the most important color when you're doing Caucasian skin. Is just because it's like when you get a piece of silicone or rubber, it's dead. So you need to bring it to life. So by putting in the red is like putting back in the blood, and then as soon as you put the red in there, it slowly starts to come to life.
Wow.
Nice.
That yellow, I haven't even thought of the yellow, because you're right. There's so many colors. I'm just staring at my knuckle now, but that yellow is that's a thing. See everybody? I got yellow knuckles too. Now we know.
That's very cool. Thank you, Johnny, for that. That's a great question. Wanted to put this one up. It's in between your other slides, but I'll move this out. But wanted to know about this one.
Yeah, so this again is working with the great guys at Amalgamated Dynamics and working on Alien 3. The first job that I started working with Alec and Tom on that they hired me on was the original Point Break. And they hired me on that because of my background of mask making and everything back here back in Arizona. And then their next job that they got was Alien 3. And I thought, wow, an Alien movie, because I'm such a huge one, as you can tell, huge Alien fan. But I never thought in a million years that they would ask me to work on a film. And so I just figured, well, I'm going to go around and see, where else I can go work in these shops and stuff. And they sat me down and they said, look, we can't build anything here because it's going to be shot over in London and at Pinewood Studios. Would you be interested in joining us? And it was just like, I swear to God, I think I pooped my pants big time. And I said, yeah. It's like, so they were only allowed to take, 3, 4, 5, I think five or 6 Americans to go over, because the rest of the crew had to be English. And so Dave Anderson, Mitch Coughlin, Yuri Everson, Alec and Tom, and myself. And did I say Dave Anderson? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it was us that went over there, and they had already had a couple of people. Alec and Tom had also worked at Stan. They started at Stan Winston Studios, but they worked there, and they had also worked on Aliens at Stan's.
Oh wow!
And so they already knew, a few people already, effects guys in London to bring on to the show. So it was an amazing project to be on, and very proud of that film. And I know it's not a lot of people's favorite film, but there's a lot of people that it's got a huge following to it. I think it's a great film. I just wish that the studios could have left David Fincher alone a little bit more to let him do what he really wanted to do.
So when you came to this movie, what kind of work were you doing? Sculpting, painting, kind of a little bit of everything, or what was your role? A
little bit of everything, but I think my main thing was really painting, and it was just my airbrushing that I did back at the Halloween company, where I kind of trained myself. I kind of became like one of the main painters, and I did a bit of sculpting and stuff. And I think on this show I sculpted. There's a little embryo that's next to Ripley's chest when they do a CAT scan of her. So I did that little thing, and I sculpted bits and pieces, and but mostly I helped out wherever help needed to be had, making molds or running foam latex, sweeping the floors. I was great at that, really great. And this particular,
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, this particular piece here, this was for our display piece. This is after we came back from London. We were there for about 7 months, I think, and then came back and shot some more in LA. But we wanted to have a nice display piece in our shop, and so Yuri and I, on downtime, we had the molds, and so we put this guy together. And so I did sculpt a bit on this one. I sculpted the lips and the tendrils and things like that, and then of course got to paint it. And I had all the time in the world to paint it. Alec and Tom said, just do whatever you want. So I used a special kind of automotive paint on this one, and then sealed it with a really high gloss, and it was so much fun. The thing had so much detail in it. It was just stuff that nobody will ever see, but I know it's there.
Where does that thing sit right now? Like, is that in your collection?
No, I wish. No, Alec and Tom had that in their workshop for years and years, and I believe they sold it in an auction. And, yeah, so somebody has it somewhere, but it's the full body. We had it. It was hanging from the ceiling on the wall. So it was like crawling down from there. And when we had the Northridge quake in LA, I was there. Yeah. And I remember going to the shop in the morning just to go and check out the shop to see what kind of state it was in. It was quite a mess, but I was concerned about this guy because we had him hanging from, like as I said, we had him hanging from the ceiling by his ankles by some cables. And what was funny is that when the earthquake hit, he swung out away from the wall and came back in and smashed back into the wall with his hands, and his hands embedded themselves into the drywall. So that was like the force of how far it got pushed out from the earthquake. It was really incredible.
Johnny says it's at his house. Of course,
yes,
of course.
Yes.
I'm coming to your house, Johnny.
Send it to Gino. He wants it back.
Yeah.
So cool.
So this is going back in time. This is one of my first prosthetic makeups. This was my friend John Zeal, and turning him into a werewolf. This was for a Halloween gag. And John was always like me, always loved werewolves, but we loved watching a show called Dark Shadows. Do you guys remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was, like back in the 60s, wasn't it? Yeah. It was like a soap opera. It was black and white, but there was Barnabas Collins, who was like the head of this household, and he was a vampire, and all sorts of weird kind of characters. But there was a character that was a werewolf, and John asked me, he says, "Oh, you know what? I want you to turn me into a werewolf." So I took John's life cast and sculpted this piece. Not my greatest piece. It's the nose, the way it sticks out like that is like, but anyways, it was fun. Made him some teeth, and it was a great learning process.
So now, and this, wait, go back one second. So what I'm always fascinated by is when you said you were like 19 going to your first NBC gig, and I know you started at the Halloween shop when you were teenager, 17, 16, something like that?
I was 18, I think, when I started the Halloween.
Oh, so you're only like a year into. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, going back, I may have been my early 20, maybe 21 or something in LA. I need to do the math.
But I mean, you're clearly a kid in this thing. It's just fascinating to see. And I think a lot of people that watch us are fascinated by like the fast start that a lot of folks we interview and talk to get. And you're clearly like we've talked to several folks who just had that kind of initial, that they had like no safety net. This is what I'm going to do kind of mentality, and it paid off. I mean, I'm assuming, did you know you wanted to get right into this like from an early age, and you weren't going to do anything else?
I mean, I had a great upbringing. My parents were great, Johnny and Rosie Acevedo, and they were always very supportive. I always loved doing artwork, drawing and that kind of stuff. And Dad was a bit of an artist and did a bit of sketching and stuff, but nothing really serious. But the one thing that I always loved ever since I can remember was I loved monsters. I was a monster kid, and in Phoenix, there was a TV show every Saturday morning from 10:30 to 12 called The World Beyond.
Beyond. Yeah, of course.
And
it was always Godzilla, and then there would be some other random thing, but Godzilla was a big feature on World Beyond.
It was, yeah. But they had things like the creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Wolfman, and all that kind of stuff. So I always watching that kind of stuff, and at a very young age, and Mom and Dad said, "All right, you're gonna watch it, but you're gonna pee your bed. You're gonna get scared." I only did it twice, but as I said, I always had a fascination with monsters and stuff. And I even remember when I was probably in 5th grade, I think, something like that. The teachers have the parent-teacher, conference to meet up and stuff. Sure. And we went over to my to the art class, and with Mrs. Freeman was the teacher, And Miss Vernon talk like this. Hello, hello. And parents went in there, and she says, "Well, the students are doing this and this, and they were doing like painting mountains and flowers and stuff, and this is what Gino's doing." And so, of course, I had my monsters and bleeding teeth and everything, and we had made these masks, these paper mache masks. It's where you got a balloon, put paper mache around it, let it totally dry.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Sure.
The balloon, cut the mask in half, and you got two halves, two masks. But I did mine as the creature from the Black Lagoon, and I wish I still had that thing, because I can see it clear as day. Where I even cut out green crepe paper and used them for the gills.
Oh, and, that's awesome.
And but yeah, so she was like, is everything okay at home? Yeah, he's fine. He's all right. Yeah. So
he pees the bed after he watches, Wolfman, but other than that, he's good. Yeah.
We put plastic down for him. He's okay now. Yeah.
So great.
But yeah, so it was just a whole fascination with that. And then, again, probably when I was maybe 8 years old, maybe 8 to 10 or something, but I saw the original Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a huge life changer right there, because I always, again, I had this love for animals and stuff anyway, but especially apes, any of the primates I've always loved. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that movie, it just blew my mind. It's like, yeah. And after seeing that, I saw this documentary on how they were made. It's made by, in fact, I've got his picture here somewhere. Where is it? This is John Chambers. So
cool picture.
John Chambers was the gentleman who created the Planet of the Apes, the makeups and things, and he came up with that technique of having the two pieces, a lower piece and the facial piece, and using that foam latex, the foam rubber. And anyways, after seeing that documentary and how he did it, how he started out with turning Roddy McDowell into the chimp, it was just blew my mind. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to get into that. But in Phoenix, it's like, well, at that age, you don't know what you're going to do. Right. So it's always had that kind of fascination and stuff. And it wasn't until I started with the Halloween company, in my early teens, that it really opened up the door for me. And the gentleman that I mentioned before, Barry Coper, it's funny how this whole thing turns around and just everything gets connected. But Barry took me under his wing, and he's the one that introduced me to the Stan Winstons, the Rick Bakers, and all those guys in Hollywood. But it turns out that Barry was taught by John Chambers, and Barry worked on the TV show, the Planet of the Apes TV show. And so it was just like, wow, this is amazing. So that's how I got the picture with John, because Barry took me to meet John. And so it was just, really incredible. And to go full circle, it was amazing out here when we worked on at What a Digital, which is What FX now. We did the Planet of the Apes films. It was all done digitally. But I remember when everybody found out that we were doing the Planet of the Apes, a lot of my friends back in LA said, "Hey, Gino, we heard you guys are doing Planet of the Apes. I've got my makeup kit packed. I'm ready to come out. Let me know when I can." And it's like, I said, actually, I read the script, and it's all going to be digital. And they're like, "What?" And I said, "Yes, it's going to be digital." I said, "There's just no way that even with the best makeup and stuff that you're going to be able to get the articulation that's going to be needed, for these guys." Right. And so, it wasn't until the film came out later and they saw us, oh yeah, okay, now we kind of get it, So anyways, but it was so I wish I could have been, at that age to work on one of the original Planet of the Apes, way back when with John. But anyway, so I at least I got to be a part of it here.
Do you so Planet of the Apes, I watched all the new ones, Mark Wahlberg's and all those. I thought those were really fascinating, especially the kind of newer round of them. And some of them really still, and from a CG perspective, even though it was relatively early, still hold up. Especially the later ones, clearly, because the stuff's really caught up by then. Did you? What was it like? I'm picturing a lot of like big green screens, and was everything since everything's digital, you're working with live actors, but they have the little dots on their face like Gollum did, and all that stuff, right? I mean, is that pretty much that process? Like it's all kind of mapped that way and then built later?
It was, yeah. And the actors, you know, they were in their suits, you know, and of course Andy Serkis was in the show again, you know, playing Caesar.
Yep.
And he had they had these, like, you know, arm extensions so they could walk and walk around like a chimp. And they had the full headgear, which had a camera. That thing that they're wearing, this is right here. It's actually a camera that so they're able to capture all the facial stuff, and those dots all those dots are strategically placed on the face. And they're very important areas to capture all the facial movements and just the way that the facial muscles and things move. So, but they were all live actors on set, you know, acting with the actors.
And that's still, like, I know Avatar just, you know, the first Avatar just the next Avatar just came out, and I know that you've been spending a whole lot of time on that over the last few years. But same process, is it, or is it evolved?
It's the same process, but it has evolved, where they're able to capture even that much more information, you know, which really helps out with the performance. And of course, then it goes to the animators, and it's not just something that gets transferred over right away, and then they've got, you know, an instant performance of an ape. You know, a lot of work has to be done by the animators as well to go back and enhance things. You know.
Sure. Yeah, fascinated by that too. Sorry, Mick.
These are just some old pieces at the Halloween Company. Some of my sculptures of some of these masks called the character masks, and Larry wanted to kind of stay away from the full over the head masks because, you know, they get so uncomfortable to wear. So we came up with these masks that are just kind of like a half mask that would leave the jaw open so you can eat, talk, and drink. And of course, you know, nice big eye holes. Yeah, so they were a lot of fun to do. And it's like you were talking earlier about wrinkles. You know, I love doing wrinkles as well.
Yeah.
When you sculpt, do you tend to gravitate towards more of a stylized kind of more whimsical style, or do you like doing like the realism? Because those 4 sculpts that you just showed all have that cool, almost cartoonish aspect to them that I love so much. Like, is that what, like, if you just sat down and carved something today or sculpted something today, would it have that kind of appeal to it?
It would, and it's probably not by choice, to be honest.
Right. Well, it's just sort of what comes out of you, right?
It's interesting because when I try to draw stuff, it always ends up coming a bit stylized and cartoonish is a good word, and caricature kind of thing, and but I guess that's just my style, you know. It's something I gotta to live with, but it's interesting. As I said, I love doing detail stuff, and so when I do my drawings and things, I tend to put a lot of detail, you know, the individual hairs, the little peach fuzz on the ears and things like that. So
you're just amazing. It's like, this is something that I would want to carve, like, just because it has that little something. It isn't too real, it isn't too whimsical, if you will. It's like right in the sweet spot of, I hate to say it again, like not cartoon, but what would you, there's got to be a word. Gino, come up with a word. You could just completely trademark it right now. It's just so Ginoized.
Ginoized it immediately. There we go.
But I have to admit, you know, looking at this, of course, you know, I'd seen American Werewolf in London, you know, and Rick's incredible work. So I was inspired by that, you know, some of the skin detailing and the flow of some of the wrinkles and detail on that. So I did, you know, borrow some of that from Rick on this piece here.
Yeah, it's dynamite.
And the guy's got cool feathered hair too, so you're fine. Cool hair. It's a cool werewolf too,
and incorporated facial hair, his own facial hair in there as well. So
yeah.
So
and that mask, I still got that mask, and again, it's like it's really incredible. Where is it here? Hang on.
Oh, no way!
I can't believe he still has it.
I'm surprised some of this stuff holds up as long as it does, because these things aren't, you know. I mean, latex breaks down over time.
Oh,
it's whoa! Now it's a party.
Still got it.
I got it. Oh man,
and they're great masks. Again, they were just so comfortable to wear because you can still, you know, eat, talk, and drink.
That is dynamite.
Wow, so that's pretty flexible. I was picturing it kind of rigid.
As I said, you know, the latex back then, the quality was just really incredible. And this is that same mask, and this is
this
is probably 1984, something like that.
That's wild.
crazy stuff.
The detail on the hair from the sculpt alone is pretty impressive.
Oh,
that hair too. I mean,
Yeah. It looks real almost.
yeah.
Oh wow.
This was while I was still at the Halloween company. Larry would let me go and to talk to students, and most of them were always at the high school theatrical kind of stuff, and this was a makeup demonstration I did on one of the students there. I always wanted to do a witch that was kind of inspired by. Do you remember Legend?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Dark, and Meg
Knucklebones.
Yeah, which was designed by my very talented friend Miles Tevis. And so I took some of those features of Meg and tried to put them into this makeup, which was lots of fun.
Wow.
Meg Knucklebones is one of the few. Well, there's been a couple, but she was in the list of ones that actually gave me a nightmare after I saw it. Like she popped into the dream, and I was terrified.
Yeah, she was great. And performed by Robert Picardo, which did an amazing job, with that.
I'll say scarred me for life. Oh my God.
Well, Darkness still to this day is like probably top 3 of my all-time favorite sculpts. I mean, there's just the character, Tim Curry was amazing. Every part of that thing was just the size of it, the horns, the everything. Anyway, so that was a really, really cool one. Haunted me when I was a kid.
It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful piece. Everything fit together so well. This is me again at the Halloween company, and again inspired by American Werewolf in London. I wanted to do my own werewolf head, so here I am sculpting this. I don't know what's going on with those cheekbones. I needed to look at some more anatomy books there, but it was fun. So I had my little workshop there, my little laboratory, and during the day, I'd work and do stuff for the company. And then at nighttime, I'd come home, have dinner. And then about 6:30 or 7 at night, I'd go back to my shop and just practice and do my own stuff. And I'd work till midnight, just playing around. And sometimes I'd even, take a friend. I remember one time my really good friend, Greg Ittner, back in Arizona. And I wanted to have a cast of a hand, of an arm, actually, or like a cut off arm. And I asked Greg, I said, Greg, can I borrow your arm? I want to make a mold off your arm to make this fake thing. And Greg would do anything for a 12-pack of beer.
Yeah.
So bought that and went over there. And I was looking at this incredible book by Tom Savini called Bizarro. And it showed a lot of like step-by-step stuff on how Tom did things. And anyways, one of the steps was, to make a plaster mold off an arm, you need to coat Vaseline on the arm to protect the hair, because otherwise plaster is going to stick with it. I mean, you shouldn't use plaster to take a cast anyway, but hey, I didn't know any better. And anyways, I had his arm, and I separated with clay into 2 halves. So you have a bottom half and a top half. And with that separation, and then I put Vaseline on, and I poured plaster over the very top of his hand and his arm, and that was coming out great. And then then once that's set up, I flipped his arm over with his arm still attached to the top part of the plaster, and peeled away the clay, Vaselined it some more, his skin and the plaster. So I made a 2-piece plaster mold. And as it's setting up, as you know, plaster starts to set up and it starts to get quite hot. And so steam's coming off of this thing. And he's already halfway through his 12-pack. And he goes, damn, this is getting hot. And I said, it's okay. It's supposed to, and I've got my paper here. So yeah, it goes through a heat stage. We're okay. And anyway, once it's set up, I peeled away the underside, and the underside came off beautiful. And I had all the detail in his hand, his palm and everything. And then when it came to take the top off, I started to pull it off, and he goes, "Oh!" And I said, "What?" He said, "It's stuck."
Oh no,
that's not stuck. I said, "No, the hairs." I said, "No, because look, it says right here, put Vaseline." I put Vaseline on there. He says, "I don't care." I said, "It's stuck." And I looked inside. I pulled the mold a little bit. I looked inside, and all these hairs are sticking up into the plaster, and he's quite hairy. And I'm going, "Oh crap!" And so I got a little X-Acto knife, and I was just like pulling it up and going, "Bing, bing, bing," trying to cut it. And he says, "No, forget it." He says, "Just pull it." I said, "What?" "Seriously, just pull it." And I said, "All right." And he goes, "Well, hang on a minute." He goes, Okay, pull it. And you know that sound that Velcro makes?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Peel it off, and man, he screamed. And
Free
then
wax.
I looked on the inside of the mold. The inside of the mold was just like a carpet laid of all his hair. And then when I put the two back together and I poured latex into it, and then when I got the latex out, the hairs transferred into the latex. So I had this perfectly haired arm.
Oh, even better.
And so I had
Human
that
hair. That's perfect.
I had that arm for years, and I did lots of gags with that. Hey, another friend from Arizona, Gary Blakely. Hey, Gary.
Nice. Thanks for joining.
Here's,
I keep thinking about Gino when you say that. Like, let me get that last sip. I think of like the old West movies when they're pulling the arrow out from
that's exactly what it
hang
was.
on, let me get that. Or resetting a leg that's broken, and That's
and then on Greg's arm, of course, he was like totally waxed, and just all these little pinpricks of blood were coming out.
Ripped it all out.
That was the last time he ever was my guinea pig.
You would have to buy him a case the next time.
Oh yeah. And this again at the Halloween Company, and this was a job that Barry Coper actually got me over at Universal Studios. They have the characters called the Walkarounds, and so they had the Frankenstein, and they had what's it? Well, the Phantom of the Opera. And so I had to sculpt a Frankenstein, but it couldn't look like Boris Karloff because they didn't have the rights to the likeness of Boris. And so I nailed that. So I tried to get a likeness, but nah. So anyways, but did these masks. I must have made like 60 or 70 of these masks, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great learning experience.
So you sculpt them, and then you did pretty much soup to nuts, right? You had to paint them, do the whole thing, right? I mean, the
hair,
molding,
everything,
casting, the hair, and what a great learning experience! My gosh, that's like trial by fire. You just got to go get it done. Wow,
that's great.
So cool.
And this was another friend with I did this with my friend David Ayers. This is a friend of his. Every year he would make up a couple of his friends, and this particular year he had to make up. He made up his other friend as what was it? It was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, I think it was, it was a Wolfman, one of the two. But anyways, this guy, I think his name was Tom, and I decided I wanted to make him up as a zombie.
Okay.
I'd seen the Day of the Dead and all those kind of films, and so this was my take on a zombie who's also a photographer.
Hey, they gotta have hobbies. You can't just walk around undead, without something to do.
It was just so much fun back in those days of molding stuff but casting the foam latex, and that's one of the most still really exciting things for me even today is like when you make a mask, you pour latex into it and you cure it and you take it out. There's something about pulling it out of the mold and getting this fresh latex skin and the smell of the latex. Even with a foam rubber, you get that. So I smell that kind of stuff and it just takes me back.
Let me ask you about that because when it comes to like the practice of the mold making stuff, we were talking with trying to think of what it's dawning on. The last couple of guests we've had have talked about like that there's kind of dying in a way because of all of the use of digital related to like you got a ability to almost create in 3D via a digital picture, the mask, the face, kind of everything you want on a digitally copied face. So do you think this is a dying art in some ways, and like in the movie world, like the actual creation of the masks and everything else?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question, and it's amazing the way that the technology has progressed so much, and so fast. But I'm always been so fascinated with with ZBrush and of course the 3D printing stuff. Sure. And I've seen a lot of guys that are doing they're doing the whole process now, digitally, and printing out the live cast, even with the live cast process, which is the first step of it. Instead of using the old alginate or the silicones that we use now for the live cast, they're getting them scanned, which in a lot of ways is actually quite a bit better because with the scanning, you get all the forms, but there's no distortion at all. because a lot of times, even though as thin as you try to keep the life casting material, it still tends to sag the skin a little bit, and so you're not getting a totally 100% accurate cast of the actor. But in scanning, you do get that. But on the flip side of that, I still don't think you can get pretty great detail with the scanning, but I don't think you can get quite as much detail as you can with the old technique of using a material that we use now called body double, which is a great silicone material. But as I said, there's a lot of guys are doing the whole process digitally, and they're sculpting the pieces, the appliances, and making both molds, both the positive and the negative molds, digitally. And and they're so perfect, they're beautiful. I mean, they look like pieces of art. But in saying that, so is the whole process of making molds. I love making molds, and a lot of the guys that are great mold makers, their molds are pieces of art. And they're just, again, it is starting to get a little bit of a lost cause, not lost cause, a lost or a lost cause. It's just the process is getting lost a little bit. But the thing is that, not everybody can afford a 3D printer and the programs for that. So a lot of people are still using the old process, which works just as well, and it's just so much funner,
Yeah, absolutely. I want it to stay around forever, but technology, damn it.
But it's almost like, when Velcro came out, in tennis shoes, everybody was having, Velcro put on tennis shoes, and the kids were going to, not know how to tie their shoes with laces. You used to have to use laces to tie your shoes. What?
Suckers.
Yeah. Can you go back a frame with Dave Miller? There we go. This is my great friend and very incredibly talented David Miller. This is a long time ago. And David did the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, wow.
Back when on Robert Englund. And this is about the time that I was over in LA working at NBC on that show that we first talked about. And I had a little bit of time left over. And by this time, David was working on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, called The Dream Child. And, I'd go to David's shop and see all his cool stuff in there. And David asked me, he said, look, I know you got a little bit of time before you got to go back to the Halloween company, but do you want to come and, help me work on Nightmare on Elm Street do some Freddy stuff? And it's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I helped Dave, sculpt some of the pieces for Robert. And this is sculpting one of the stunt masks of Robert here. And but that was, again, just mind-blowing experience, and such a great time to work with so many talented guys at Dave's workshop. And that's how I met Mitch Coughlin, actually, who came to work with us on Alien 3.
Wow. Robert Englund is going to be at Monsterpalooza. I saw him, Paul. You see that?
I did.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
cool. I mean, he's kind of the cool. If you were to name the 3 or 4 top monster movies of all time, he certainly isn't at the top. That's just the whatever reason that character is so damn beloved. I guess anyway, it's to the test of time. Whatever that original makeup was, clearly is pretty amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. And when I went to the Palooza, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, the first time and only time I've been to Palooza was a few years ago. Robert was there, so I got to see Robert, and I hadn't seen Robert since we'd worked together on Nightmare 5, so it was great to kind of reminisce a little bit. And what an incredible guy!
So cool.
So cool. Yeah. Every photo just gets cooler and cooler.
I'm sculpting the appliance on the back of his left hand, and this was cool. Dave had a really good idea of sculpting it, but that you can see we cast the hand, but we kind of flared it out. And because the nice thing about the foam rubber, we used foam rubber back in those days. We didn't have the silicone stuff, but the nice thing about the foam rubber is that you can get it, and when you glue it, get it and stretch it and then pull it down. So that's what the flap is back there on his arm.
Oh, okay.
It's just an extra piece that we were able to get and wrap it underneath the arm.
Is that cast from Robert's hand?
His hand, yes.
Okay. Wow. Very cool. I'd love to see where those things are now.
Yeah. And there was a scene in the film where, as he's being resurrected, his hand fits into the glove again, and and so this was his left hand.
Oh, so cool. So cool.
Great memories.
Dynamite. Great sculpt too.
Oh, thanks. I always love doing all that kind of sinewy kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I do a lot of that kind of stuff when I do my drawings. When I do my drawings, I love very translucent kind of skin kind of stuff, but also that very kind of stretchy, sinewy kind of stuff.
Speaking of your drawings, wait, real quick on your drawings, because if you go to Gino's page on Instagram, you can see a ton of his just surreal, amazing drawings. And insane. I'm surprised you're not like a more known for those. They're stunning. But anyway, do you find like a lot of pleasure in just sitting down and doing a drawing versus sculpting or painting, or do you like one over the other?
It depends really. I love having the ability to do a mix of everything. The one thing I haven't done in quite a while is some sculpting. I sculpted a wound for somebody recently, but as far as like sculpting a full head or a mask or something, that's what I really want to get back into doing. When I was in LA, I caught up with my friend Norman Cabrera, and Norman gave me one of his werewolf masks, which is
nice.
So cool. I can't wait to paint it. But there's something about sculpting those masks and using like the wet clay, the water-based stuff, and it's just so rewarding, so much fun.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you start with a concept sketch, like if you were going to do it, or would you just sit down with the wet clay and just start throwing it around?
I think for me, I just get into it.
So much fun, isn't it?
Yeah. And it just constantly changes and changes, and of course, you come back next day, it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I recently just started one myself for the first time with wet clay, and at first I was a little hesitant, and now it's amazing.
Yeah,
especially when it firms up just a little bit.
Exactly. And what I love about the wet clay is I used to get like a torch, a flame torch, and when I was ready to detail, is to hit the surface of it, and it dries out the surface, and then you get your tool and scratch in the detail. And then what'll happen is, because the clay behind it is moist, the moisture comes back through again. So you use that torch, and that's pretty cool.
I'm gonna burn my house down.
Yeah. Disclaimer. Supervision. Get the wife.
Wow, what a great tip! Thank you. That's fantastic. Because that's kind of the point I'm at now. I gotta get into the detail of it.
Yeah.
And then have the nerve to make the mold. Ooh,
nice.
That's the scary part for me.
This is one of my first makeups I did. This is before the foam rubber, but just using slip cast latex. And this was my old science teacher. His name was Francis Reinprecht, and he was my guinea pig for this. And so I did a live cast of him and sculpted the pieces and did it out of just slip cast latex and put it together. It was a lot of fun. It was just a huge learning curve.
That's fantastic.
This was playing around with some of the stuff at the Halloween company. Actually, it was a great material that Larry had come up with called fake skin. And fake skin was basically a cotton ball dipped into this liquid microcrystalline wax that was tinted like a flesh color. And these and basically you get this cotton ball and put it in these containers, and that's how you got it. And what was cool about it, you can get it, it's quite pliable, and because of the fibers in the cotton, you could pull it apart and put it onto the skin. And because of the Vaseline and the wax, you get it and just do this, and it blends right into the skin. Just really beautiful, really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, for being in the 80s, that was pretty damn remarkable. I mean, looks pretty like spot on.
I thought it was like a makeup gone bad, like sort of like the hairs in the arm. This is my first attempt at a live cast, and
poor bastard went right to the hospital.
That's after the blister popped.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We all got to start somewhere, right?
This
and
movie I remember.
Jumping ahead when I've finally moved to LA and working with Dave Nelson, who had a company where we did a movie called Ed, Chimp Who Plays Baseball, and it was I think it was Matt LeBlanc's first film.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. This is like right after Friends, like it blew. That's right. I remember this. Okay.
And I can't remember how many Oscars this film won, but no.
It was right up there with Gigli, I think, as far as number of Oscars.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? But this was, again, because I'm such an ape fanatic, working with these guys making the ape was just incredible. And we used a silicone on this, which was really, it made that skin just look so much more realistic. It was a lot of fun. And the actor that was in this, so the whole head is basically, it's like a mechanical head, and with a skin on top of it, and it had servos inside of it, which would make the brows move and the lips, curl back and things, exposing the teeth, and the eyes were the actor's eyes. And so it was kind of like it didn't have a blending piece, but we had sculpted it in such a way that it would actually fit just right underneath her eye bags and put a little bit of pressure under there. And we put a bit of makeup on her skin, on her eyelids, and carry them onto the mask itself. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, it was a trick that Rick Baker did years ago back on Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
Now, how long does a makeup like that take to apply, Gino? That looks very involved.
Yeah.
Well, it was just, as I said, it was just a full over the head pull on mask. And so it was just the only makeup that was involved was just around her eyelids. Really? And so I think that it probably took probably half hour,
Oh my God.
It's basically just like, because what I did purposely when I painted the silicone skin on the mask itself, I did a lot of like a mottling kind of patterns and stuff around there, so that I knew that we could replicate that with the paint and the makeup.
Was there only one head, or did you have a couple of heads in case something went wrong?
I think we did have a couple of heads, yeah.
And he has one right just beside him right now. You still have one? You must still have one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a bunch of them here.
Oh my God.
Aha.
Apes, monkeys everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Sigourney,
Yeah.
Dr. Zayas, the whole gang.
Mr. Baker. So cool.
Oh my gosh.
I want to hang at your house.
Monkeys are us.
I just want to sit in that room for a couple hours just asking questions. So I saw Jane Goodall.
I have to check your pockets when you left them.
That's we'll do.
You'd have to check the suitcase I walk in with.
Yeah, exactly. Do you so tell us about the work time you did. You did work with Jane Goodall, because I don't know if we talked about that last time at all. I know you did some work for her going back a number of years, right?
Yeah, well, it was what it was let me just grab her face here. As I said, being such a huge apes fanatic, and as a teenager, being in love with Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
And, I got to tell her that. She goes, "You weren't the only one." But
get in line.
It's probably about 10 years or 8 years ago, something like that, where I heard that Jane was coming out here to New Zealand to come and do her talks and stuff. And I had always had this idea of casting her hand holding a chimp's hand, because I have a big collection of these casts and things, but making like a statue kind of thing that could be made and sold on behalf of her, her company thing.
Right.
And so when she came out, I had made a prototype. I'd actually cast another friend's hand holding a chimp's hand and put it on a really nice pedestal and stuff. And I went to go to see her, and I said, "Hi, Jane. I'm Gino Acevedo. Blah blah blah. I work at Weta." I said, "Look, I would love to, to make something to sell on behalf of you and things. And so this is like a little statuette that I had in mind of you holding a chimp's hand." And she was, fascinated with it. She goes, "Wow, that's really cool. I've never seen anything like that." And she goes, how long would it take? I said, she goes, because I've got a full schedule and only here a few days. And I said, well, it'd probably take about 30 minutes, which I knew it was going to take longer than that, but I just had to get And so I said, my shop is just down the road, and we could do it. And so she agreed. So I thought, wow, okay. So she came to my shop, which was part of the Wetta's there, and we took her hand cast, and we produced this amazing piece. In fact, my friends at Bone Clones made the piece, and they still have it, and you can still buy a copy of it. So it's a really beautiful piece, and it's under boneclones.com. So we made that, and we just became friends, right away. And she came over here. We had a nice dinner and just chatted about apes, of course. And she went back, and because she travels like 360 days a year.
Wow.
And I knew she was going to come back in a couple of years, so we kept in touch through email and everything. And I told her, I said I kept wanting to ask her because I wanted to take her live cast. And I thought, oh, she's not going to go for that. And so I finally, okay. So I wrote to her and I said, "Dear Jane," I said, would you be interested next time you come out if you let me take a live cast of you? And so I didn't hear anything back for a while. And I thought, nah, she's not going to do it. I finally got this email back a few weeks later, and she goes, "Dear Gino, after being at your house and seeing your wall of these death casts, you want to do a death cast on me?" I said, "They're not called death casts." So I said, "It's a live cast." And so she agreed to it. And so she came back over to the shop, and we did a cast, and here she is.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful lady.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. How amazing.
How did she do it? How did she do in the casting process? Because I know that's not an easy, for someone who doesn't do that, actor maybe no problem, but was it tough for her?
She was really incredible. We actually did it twice, because the first one that I did, she looked at it. She goes, "Oh, it doesn't look like I'm very happy. So the next time I come out, I want to do it again." So she came out, a couple years later. Then we did it again, which is this last one that I showed you. And so it was really cool. And it's the only person that's got one of these.
Oh my gosh!
Amazing.
Except for Rick Baker, I did give Rick Baker one. So, and
there you go.
They know each other.
Oh, that's
wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I have some bad news for everyone here. This is the fastest 90 minutes on the internet, and we have done 270 minutes with Gino now collectively.
Yeah.
And we want more. Gino, you are amazing. Like, your stories, everything. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of like everything that we can learn from you. We'd love to have you back. Let's
do it.
Hey,
Mickey, we didn't even talk about Lord of the Rings again. We didn't talk about Gollum and the Hand of Sauron and all of his other painting. And anyway, a million things, Gino. You're the best.
Next time.
So amazing. But I did want to go around and see what Matt and Paul are carving. They've been carving the whole time. So, Paul, why don't you go first?
Oh.
That's great.
I'm blocking, still blocking. Getting a little thin up top there for the gnome hat, but
cheeks.
Love it.
So good.
Well, it's agony. He could have like meningitis or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. So
That's
good,
great.
Paul.
Very cool.
Thanks. Working on it.
So good. Matt,
so my lighting's not as good as Paul's, but
you got a great shape to that.
I don't know. So if we can see if we can get him a little bit. Hang on. Come on, focus.
It's like a Russian nesting gnome right now.
You're good, Matt.
Yeah, okay. So I was trying to get the lighting right because it looks better from up above, but yeah, he's an agony too. And I swear this will come into focus when I take good pictures of it. But right now he's just a agonized butternut squash.
Very cool.
So good.
Thanks for the idea. I mean,
yes.
I'm glad I went to guest choice. This is super fun because it fits the shape of this thing so nicely.
Yes, absolutely. So if you want to see more from Gino, go to his Instagram. Is there anywhere else we can see your work, or is this the good place to go?
Not at the moment. Just on Instagram is a good place. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is where you can find us.
You can spend hours just on his site, by the way. Just just spend all the time in the world. It's amazing. It's ridiculous.
Oh, thanks,
Go to
guys.
his what is it? IMDb, right?
IMDb,
Yes.
go to that too.
To go to that and then spend the next 3 months watching movies.
Yeah.
You'll see plenty of his work.
Yes, everybody loves you, Gino. Gino, like we've had so many people watching, hanging on every word, and it's been just a pleasure to watch you. I mean, like, and all your friends are watching you as well. So thank you for that as well. We always
Gary, Johnny.
love getting new people in here. Yes, thank you, Johnny, so much. Again, we'll be back next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators. Gino, thank you for being here. Paul and Matt, any last words before we sign off for this week?
He's
Thanks,
a legend.
Gino.
Yeah.
Oh, you switched up the
Thank you,
camera.
Gino.
Thanks, Gino.
Yeah, which way to turn my head? That way.
No, normally. Here we go.
There it is.
The Brady Bunch all over again.
Yes, yes. All right, so we'll see you next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators.
Thursday.
See you next week. Good night, everyone. Take care.
See you guys. Stay safe.
Yeah.